Hey, what's up guys? John here. What's going on in New York City right now is just the tip of the iceberg and no one really sees what's below it. In this video, I'm going to show you everything so you get a clear picture of what's really going on behind the scenes. If you find this video useful and helpful and educational, hit the like button so other people will see it. YouTube will share this content so other people can really see what's going on. Also, today's video is sponsored by GreatCreditFast.com. If you want to fix your credit and position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we would love to give you a free consultation at GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. So take a look at this and what's going on in New York. I'm sure you've probably seen these pictures. It's horrible, right? But look at what's happening here. So in Australia, the other side of the world, right, a warming atmosphere due to this is increasing the chances of similar disasters, right? Pay close attention to this. This came out 2 days ago. Right when everything was happening in Canada, like basically the same day. Then, if we look at what Justin Trudeau said, he said today, wildfires burn across Canada with little relief in sight. And what did he blame? He blamed the same exact thing. These fires are affecting everyday routines, lives and livelihoods, and our air quality. Some of the worst fires have sprung up in the eastern province of Quebec. More than 11,000 people had to evacuate their homes in Quebec. Now, what people don't realize is when 11,000 people had to evacuate their homes in Quebec, you have this situation which is not just happening in Canada, happening in New York, happening in Australia, happening in all these different areas. What do you think insurance companies are thinking? They're thinking increased risk. They're thinking increased cost. They're thinking to bake this into everybody's policies. As I've been kind of warning people, insurance rates are going to continue to go up, up, up. And the insurance companies are going to get ready to do a massive rug pull, but it goes much, much deeper than that. We look at this interview with Justin Trudeau. Not many people are talking about this, but he's talking about a guy, an old man, an old gentleman that was in his building, and the building's basically on fire. And they had to rescue him, and he's sitting there laughing about the situation. I personally think that it wasn't really, it was I'll let you see it. You tell me what you see.
Well-being at risk, racing into a burning community to evacuate an elderly man who was unaware of the threats they were facing. As always,
like he's trying to hold it. He's trying to hold it back. He's trying to hold it back, and I personally believe he's doing it because they know that what's going to happen next is this massive, massive power grab, and it's going to be greater. It's going to be bigger than anybody can imagine. And we're stepping into the greatest wealth transfer. I've been talking about this on this channel, the greatest wealth transfer of all time. And what I think is ultimately going to happen is you're going to have to pay to start to commute, to travel, to do certain things, to go on vacations, to offset a lot of these newfound costs, which are going to be carbon taxes. So when they say that inflation is going to be coming down, just know that inflation, as I've been mentioning before, is going to continue to skyrocket. And if you want to travel, if you want to give a really good life to yourself and your family, you need to be in a business that's going to be able to provide that. You need to pay attention to what's going on with these carbon taxes because this is going to be real. I'm going to dive into this in a second, but look at this. So even if you look at this is The Guardian talking about Canada. Look, headline. Bang, same thing. Accelerated the conditions, says New York mayor. Canada battled more than 400 blazes. It's all throughout this article. They say the same exact thing. New York, they shut down the airport. But why? Why is this happening? Well, look at The Economist. The Economist came out 1 week ago. Notice everything is in the last 7 days. What is the perfect carbon price look like? What does a perfect carbon price look like? Even if you go online and you're just like, hey, flight from, let's say JFK to LAX, right? And you type it in, they'll show you, let's see here, right there, right there. It'll literally tell you which ones, right? For a reason. This is the beginning part of it. They're going to say right there, less emissions, and you can book based on that. And the price based on that will be, likely different than with it, right? And so this is how it all plays out. What does a perfect carbon price look like? Making the best method of tackling this change even better, right? To most economists, putting a price on greenhouse gas emissions is the best way to tackle this, right? So what does this really mean? A lot of people see what's happening here. So if they say that what is happening is people are traveling too much and too much wear and tear in the environment, well, obviously they don't want you going to the office because you have to drive to the office, as you've noticed the last few years. You have to drive to the office. You have to, consume energy. You have to do all these different things to get to the office to support that business. Now, if the business owner is going to have to pay you more because you're going to have to pay some type of carbon tax, and you have record high inflation, high cost of living, high cost of food prices, everything's expensive, and this business owner has a consumer that has less money, disposable income, what are they going to do? They're going to look for a way in which they can keep the lights on by either reducing their office square footage or relying heavily on AI, robotics, and technology, or outsourcing talent overseas, doing whatever they have to do to stay competitive and to make money and to keep their lights on, right? So this is all coming together here. It is efficient, allowing society to identify the cheapest unit of carbon dioxide equivalent to forego. It is fair. Polluters pay. The proceeds can be redistributed as it aids other forms of decarbonization. Complying with a carbon price forces companies to track their emissions and investors to work out which of their assets are the dirtiest. According to the World Bank, there are now 73 carbon pricing schemes across the world, covering 23% of global emissions. That is up from just 7% a decade ago. The bank's tally includes both emission trading schemes. The polluters can trade permits in a market. Now, people don't realize this. They can trade permits in a market. So you're going to be able to buy other people's, their permits. You're going to be able to buy people's carbon credits. And so what does that mean? If you have money and you're in the right business, you'll be able to travel, you'll be able to do all these different things. You'll be able to basically live normally. But if you don't have the money, then you're likely to be forced to sell yours to somebody that does, right? So we're seeing this whole change in the financial system. It's happening very, very quickly. And this is something that I've been kind of discussing a little bit about real estate for the last I would say last 18 months, saying that one of the biggest changes coming is likely going to be this rug pull around interest rates, around insurance, around affordability. All these different things are going to be coming, and it's slowly starting. But this, I think, is going to be this real grand slam that's going to change a lot of things. Because if you look at commercial real estate, $2.5 trillion has to be refied in the next 24 months. And so if you're looking at this, you're like, okay, well, insurance prices might continue to rise over the next 24 months, which is highly probable, and interest rates may remain elevated, right? And so you have this situation where you might see offices continue to contract as the economy contracts, and the cost in which to maintain and manage these buildings continue to rise. You could have a real problem, right? Where the government sets a price. So think about this. The government sets the price directly. So remember they wanted to combat inequality and all these different things. How do you combat inequality if the people that have less money, they're more unequal than ever, right? It doesn't make much sense. But the largest scheme in China and was launched in 2021, it covers the country's energy industry and therefore 9% of global emissions, even in America, which is immune to the charms of carbon pricing at a federal level. An increasing number of states and setting their own prices. Washington State, the latest convert, launched a emission trading scheme in January, right? That's The Economist. I'll leave that in the show notes. But this came out October 21st, 2022. It says the Democratic Biden administration has determined the cost to be around $51 per metric ton. And they said, oh, Trump was only going to do $10 per ton, right? Now, India prefers negotiating with EU on carbon tax to WTO, right? World Trade Organization. And you look right here, world first carbon import tax approved. This is a month ago. EU agrees the world's large carbon tax. This was, 9 months ago. European Union finally or formally notifies carbon tax of WTO, right? This is what's happening. Indonesia, same thing. Boom. Carbon border fee, right? This is what is going to be going on. So you want to position yourself. You want to prepare yourself. You want your business to be in a way that's positioned that can, dip and weave some of these curves that are going to be coming. These big curveballs are going to be coming. I think a lot of people are just looking at, what's happening right now in the media, which is like, oh, what's going on in New York City. It's much deeper than that. It's much, much deeper than that. This is going to be something that's not just going to be in New York or Philly or Boston or Baltimore or Miami or California. This is going to be all over America, all over South America, all over the world. And so you want to position yourself. You want to position yourself financially. You want to be in the right business. You want to be out of high interest credit card debt. That is number one priority for people, is to get out of high interest credit card debt, because they're going to continue to increase the cost of living, and those interest rates on those credit cards are going to continue to remain elevated. And if you're paying 25% or 28% interest on a credit card, you're going to borrow $5,000 and pay back $18,000. And then meanwhile, everything else is rising. The odds of you getting ahead, basically zero. You can still do balance transfers to where you can transfer that debt to a 0% interest credit card if you have a good enough credit score. Like, there's still options for people. But planning ahead and positioning yourself now is the only real opportunity, because the next 24, 36 months is just going to, I think, continue to get harder after that. Even before that, like, we're going to continue going, but after 36 months, I think it's just going to be almost nearly impossible. But I mean, because you think about what's going on with tech. You think about how incredible this tech revolution really is. I was listening to a TikTok the other day where they were saying, 15, 20 years ago, you needed 10,000 people to have a $1 billion plus company. But now, with what's going on with tech, they're able to reduce their workload or workforce so much that they believe in the future you might have a $1 billion company and might only have 3 employees, and everything else is done via tech. Right? It's nuts. It's absolutely crazy, but we're stepping into this. Prepare for it. If you have bad credit, we'd love to help fix your credit at greatcreditfast.com. Maybe even help you to where you can position yourself for a balance transfer or invest in distressed real estate. Add me on IG for short form content. I'll catch you guys in the next video.